And greetings to all of the kings and the queens who are watching and listening to us right now. Happy Sunday to you, and welcome back to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform for another Sunday afternoon podcast. And I am here today with some colleagues and friends, etc., who are going to be helping me unpack today's topic. And today we're going to be talking about mental health in children and preteens. We're going to be very specific in our discussion today. We're talking about the little ones, the babies, as we like to refer to them, because very often they get left out of conversations about mental health. We often are very focused on adults, and when we're not focused on adults, we're focused on the teenagers. We talk a lot about teenagers and what is going on with them, but children who are below the age of 5 kind of get overlooked. Children
Mhm.
below the age of 12, they kind of get overlooked as well. And so I thought it was really important for us to have a conversation around that demographic specifically and what is going on with them and what we're doing about it, most importantly, right? So I'm going to give my guests today a chance to introduce themselves, not that they are strangers to the platform. None of them are strangers. They have all been here before many times. But we're going to go ahead and let them reintroduce themselves, just in case there are new people, you know. And then we're going to go straight into tonight's conversation. So let's start with Manifa. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monifa St. John. I am a mental health advocate. I am also the co founder of Mental Health Talk Antigua, the only online directory for mental health professionals in Antigua and Barbuda. And what else? I guess for now, that's all. Yeah.
That's big. All right, let's go with Regina.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Regina. I am a clinical psychologist, and I work primarily, at least at this point, with persons who experience substance use addiction. And while I do work primarily with what we would consider to be more of an adult population, my heart always still remains with children. That is where I started in terms of my professional pursuits. And now that I am on the other side of the coin, and when I say that, what I mean is that I'm not just dealing with children from a professional standpoint. Now that I am in the role of a parent, this discussion is even more so special to me. And so I really appreciate the invitation from Therese from the Always a Queen platform. And I feel honored to be here alongside the fellow co-guests, that is MJ and Monifa, for us to have a very fruitful discussion. And like Monifa, I am one of the co-founders of Mental Health Talk Antigua. Good night to all of the persons who are locked in via our platform that we have shared this discussion, and we look forward to hearing from all of you.
All right, wonderful. And then we're going to go over to MJ. I want to believe plenty of people log in just to see MJ, but we're going to,
Stop it. Can flick the laps. Stop it. Gratitude. Of course, I don't need any, but still, I'm going to introduce myself. It is MJ the poet. I'm here to join this conversation. Earlier, when we were off air, Therese mentioned that I reached out to her initially to have this conversation. I am a mental health advocate. I am a mother of two. You can call them teenagers now, but still, mental health is very important in children. It's the foundation. So, as a mother, as a mental health advocate, I've been having some of my own struggles. So I reached out to Therese and said, yo, I don't want to create another platform to start over a conversation that you're already having. Can I use your platform, Queen, to have this conversation? And everything always in divine order. So she said to me, hey, I was actually thinking about doing something. The direction that I wanted to go and she wanted to go tied in. So I said, hey, invite whoever you want. Me just want to sit down and join the conversation. So I'm here to listen, to join the conversation, to put my input not only as a mother, but someone who takes mental health very serious. I sell toys. I am an entrepreneur, but I still do have a 9 to 5. So I am a customer service rep, sales rep. I have to say those things. I am a hiker. I am the gratitude queen. I am the person, you know what I want to call myself? I want to call myself the link. Because anything that you need, body, mind, and soul, FJ is your girl. So that's my introduction. Thank
All
you,
right,
Queen.
all right. I love that. I love that for you. The link. We're gonna call you the link up queen. All right. Okay, so let me also take a moment before we dive into this evening's discussion. Let me take a moment to firstly apologize on behalf of another guest who was supposed to be here with us. That is Chanel Imhoff. I'm sure everybody saw the flyer and saw that she was on the flyer. But unfortunately, the the powers that be took her power. Literally and figuratively took her
Mm-hmm.
power, right? Yeah, so her electricity just went bye-bye right before we came on air. So she is trying to figure out how to work her way around that. So we are still hoping that she will be able to join us before too long. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead with tonight's conversation. All right. I also want to quickly greet the queens who are in the chat section. Greetings to Saran and also to Monique. Thank you very much for being here for tonight's conversation. And I'm going to greet the silent listeners as well. Everybody does not go into the chat section to say something. I have a
Yeah.
lot of followers who never speak, they just log in and listen. And we love you and appreciate you too. So thank you for being here. And keep sharing the live. Share this live broadcast. Share it to your Facebook pages, to your friends, to your family, anybody who has children, whether you are a parent or a caregiver or a grandparent or an auntie or an uncle. If you have children in your care, this is for you. This conversation is for you.
Yeah.
So let's share this so that people can um, catch this information because this is going to be a very important discussion. All right. So let's start off by just putting out some simple definitions or a simple definition. We're not going to complicate this, and we also don't want to turn this into a psychology class, although it might
Mm.
feel a little bit like that, just a tad. But let's start off with some definitions, just so that we can set the parameters for what children's mental health is. Greetings, Serene. Oh, I'm so happy to see you in the chat section, girl. You know what to do. Do the
Yeah.
things that you do in the chat section. Right. So, okay. So, all right. What exactly can we define as mental health in children? What is childhood mental health? I'm gonna call on Regina to jump us off on that, and then I will let the other panelists give what for you is childhood mental health. How would you define it? What does it look like in real life?
I think for me, when I think of child mental health, so I'm not trying to come with the textbook here, but when I think of it, I really I really connect it to development in terms of milestones and what it is that we can expect. And that is very significant for children because of the amount of changes that occur that are intended to help to cement essentially who a person becomes. And I think that is why it's so important for us to have this discussion because children are the foundation of a person, of essentially an adult. And it really involves the different changes cognitively that they experience, as well as emotionally, and of course, behaviorally, and how all of that intersects and intertwines together to create a whole person. Much of which is also impacted, we would say by nurture, of course, but also by nature and the environment through which a child is able to grow and develop does impact them significantly. It is not, and I often say that it's not really the parent alone who is involved, whether from a genetic standpoint or even from child rearing, that helps to shape who this person becomes. So I know for some people it may come across as strange because, we seem to be moving from the idea that it is really villages and communities that raise children to, okay, well, it is just the parent in the household. So I'm now going to, leave the rest of the definition to the ladies because I believe we will eventually get there in terms of what I've already begun to suggest from my standpoint as a part of this discussion.
Absolutely, yes. Let me throw it over to Monifa. I will leave myself for last. Let me throw it over to Monifa. I will just add the icing on the cake. I'll let you guys bake it.
Okay, well, Regina basically pretty much said what the definition is, looking at the milestones within children, looking at how they develop socially. Like MJ and Regina, I am a parent as well, and I would have noticed, some little quirks I would call them with my son, and so I just decided to hey, I need to look into this and see what is happening. So what I wanted to add to Regina's definition is that you know your child and you know how you're raising your child to be, and what are the things that you want for your child. What are the milestones your child would be making at age 5 or at age 3, and even at age 12 and 14. So when you look at mental health in children, you can see, like, from a very vague standpoint, someone who has never studied mental health, I would look at it and say, hey, is my son doing okay mentally? Is he complaining? Is he looking like he's stressed out? My 5-year-old now is, Mom, I'm stressed out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I know a lot of you on watching here would say, what a 5-year-old know about stress? But his surroundings and the things that affect him is really affecting his mental. And so we have to know who our children are and really see if their surroundings, the nurtured part of them, is either being affecting them negatively or positively. So that is just my 2 cents to what Regina would have so eloquently explained the definition.
All right. Thank you, Manifa. And guess who just logged in? The one and only Chanel Imhoff. Thank you very much for persevering. Even though the powers took your powers, you have taken your power back. Listen, we're making light of it. We got to laugh because it's good for your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Is that supposed to be a pun, making light of it? Knowing I don't have any?
The powers that be took your powers. You see what I did there?
For sure. But
we're glad you made it. We are just kicking off the discussion. but I'm going to pause for a moment just to give you an opportunity to greet the people. I believe this is the first time you have ever been on the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, is it the first time? I think
Yes,
so.
it is. It is. It is.
All right, so greet the people, tell them who you are, say a little bit about who Chanel is, and then we will go back into the discussion.
Okay, awesome. Firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be in the company of like minds. I'm super excited to be here. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Chanel Imhoff. I'm a mental health advocate and also a communications consultant. I wear many other hats too, but those are the two that we're going with tonight. My mental health advocacy journey started in like 2018, 2019, having seen the type of system that we're working with, having been acquainted with our antiquated legislation. I put myself forward to not only raise awareness, but also, do activities and spaces like this to engage across all demographics on the importance of mental wellness.
All right. Thank you very much. And we are super happy to welcome you. Welcome to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform, the platform where we educate, empower, encourage, and motivate not just queens, even though I created the platform for the empowerment of queens. We have a whole set of kings that have decided that they're trying to join the movement. So they hear as well. So we educate and empower them too. All are welcome, right? Okay, so we just started talking about the definition of childhood mental health. When we talk about mental health in children, what exactly do we mean? Can we lay the groundwork and set the parameters for what that looks like, how that shows up in real life situations? And so we have just been going around and speaking to what that means to us. So I was going to go to MJ, and then after that, Chanel, I will kick the ball over to you, and you can speak to what exactly do you think of when you are asked to define childhood mental health? All right, so MJ, let's hear you, and then we'll go over to Chanel.
Well, I guess I will say basically what Regina and Monica said as well. To add to it in my own terminology, it's being mindful that our children do have feelings and emotions. It's being mindful that we were taught a lot of things when we were younger that didn't work for us, that trying to basically correct the wrongs and setting a basically trying to instill a better future into our children. So it's about listening to them, advocating for them when you can. I always doing my own two-step with trauma, a lot of trauma. I realize you can't really, no matter what, you can't really avoid your children from going through traumatic experiences. This is life. It is going to happen. However, what you can do is equip yourself better so that you can able to cushion the blow that life puts around them. And you can also equip yourself better that then you equip yourself better that you also realize, yo, them brain not even fully developed. Like them brain, I can't talk real. Them brain not even fully developed. So if them not understand what going on for them, come on. It's about being mindful that we were once children too. And just like how we wanted someone to speak up for us and somebody to see us, we need to be mindful that they want to be seen too. Mental health for our children goes deeper. It's not about the surface thing. It's about going deeper and being there for them, really and truly, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, by all means of wellness. Chanel.
All right. Okay, Chanel, let's hear you. How would
Chanel,
you
sorry.
define? Thank you, MJ.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough act to follow. For me, childhood mental health. refers to like the psychological and the emotional well-being of children and adolescents, and it's about how they think, how they feel, and how they behave, and it's absolutely essential for them to develop socially, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And we have to remember, and I when I did the school tour in October, I had to keep reminding, some of the teachers and the parents who came to support that, just as we as adults difficulty coping with those issues sometimes, imagine someone whose brain is not fully developed. How are
Mm-hmm.
they coping with whatever issues that they are facing? Like some days it's absolutely debilitating. You as an adult, you can't get out of bed, you can't push yourself to do the things that you want to do. And it doesn't mean that you are lazy, it means that you may be struggling. And the same applies for children. And I think it is even more important to look at that when they're that young and develop those coping mechanisms for them and help them develop those coping mechanisms when they're that young. So they get to our age now, they develop positive coping mechanisms. They know how to navigate the different facets of life.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. The only things I would want to add, because you ladies have covered it beautifully, beautifully. I just want to add two things. And this is, as I said before, this is just the icing on the cake, which you have already baked really well for me there. The first thing I would add is that I want the people listening to us to understand that when we talk about mental health in children specifically tonight, but in general, when we discuss mental health is not just about mental disorders.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to mention that
Yeah.
because I believe from the moment we hear the terminology, you hear mental health, immediately we begin thinking disorders, mental disorders, whether they are childhood disorders or adulthood disorders, we begin to immediately think about mental disorders. And I need people to be clear that mental health is not just a thing that you discuss when there are mental disorders at work.
Mm-hmm.
Your child may not have a specifically diagnosed disorder like
Yeah.
ADHD or any of the other disorders, any behavioral disorders or any of the other things, anxiety, depression, or what have you. Your child may not have officially been diagnosed with a mental disorder. This does not mean that you get let off the hook where it comes to safeguarding your child's mental health. Mental health is not just about the absence of a disorder. Mental health is your well being overall, whether a disorder is present or not. So, this conversation is for everyone. So, I don't want any of the parents listening to think, well, my child doesn't have X or Y or Z. So, my child is fine. Maybe not. Maybe not. So the absence of a disorder is not a guarantee that you have optimal mental health. That's not how this works. So everybody needs to be listening. So that's the first thing I want to add. The second thing I would like to add is that I want us to remember as we have this conversation that children are people.
Yeah.
And that might sound like a really wild thing to say because you're like, well, obviously they're people. But we don't actually treat them like they're people. And I am speaking specifically to our cultural community. That's the only cultural community that we are referring to for the purpose of this discussion. They are often not treated like people. We often treat our children as if they are not entitled to being treated like humans until they get past a certain age. Until you get past a certain age, you're not really a full human. You're just a child, and children apparently are not fully human. So We don't need to address them unless it's to give them an order or an instruction. They are not entitled to opinions, thoughts, feelings, emotions. They just exist to go for that, pick up this, do that, come here, go there. That's what we address them only to give instructions and orders, literally. You know what I'm talking about. Outside of that, they don't, you don't matter. Sit down over there and be quiet. You don't participate in conversations. We don't have discussions with you. You're a child.
Yeah.
What could you possibly have to contribute to a discussion? Because in order to have a discussion, you need to have opinions and thoughts, and you're a child and you don't have those, right? Because you're not fully a person. That is literally how a lot of our children are being raised. They're not treated like they're humans until you attain a certain age. You're not a human, you're just a child. And they are mutually exclusive, it would appear. So I am here to debunk that myth today. Because guess what? They are actually human. Fully human. With all the feelings and the opinions and the thoughts and the personalities that adults have. Can you imagine that? You are actually required to engage them in conversation
Mhm.
other than giving them instructions. You are actually required to ask them, so what you think about so and so? And allow them the space to give you an opinion. They actually have opinions. Breaking news.
Let us
Children
also,
have opinions.
Therese,
Yes.
we should also put it out there that they're not rude when they voice their opinions. Okay? The children are not rude, and indeed some of them have the most manners when they're voicing their opinion. Let us put that out there while you're making a disclaimer,
Yeah.
please. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So gone are the days where we are raising children who are to be seen and not heard.
Mhm.
Those days are gone. We have moved on. This is a different time. Let's do better, people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're
All
also
right.
entitled to their boundaries. That is what just came to me
Oh,
as you were speaking to
you mean
us.
children have boundaries? What?
Yes. That comes
Who
with being
knew?
a person, and oftentimes, as I reflect in my own mind, I can think of a number of ways in which children aren't allowed to put up their boundaries, to put them in place, because they're children. And, that contributes very significantly to adults who struggle with boundary setting because they don't know how to even do it. Children, I would say, are ingrained with the ability to say no. Like when you think of a toddler, no is probably one of the first words that they learn, and they learn it well. But over time, through their interactions with adults, then we push against that, and we try to force that no to become a yes. And so a lot of persons have developed to become people pleasers because they have not been able to set boundaries and allowed to do so even as children.
Yeah, I mean, as a recovering people pleaser, I can I can definitely attest to that because I'm going back to what Charles was saying earlier. One of my favorite people to have a conversation with is my 5-year-old son. His opinions are immaculate. Like, and the honesty, I appreciate the honesty as well. You know, children will tell you what it is for how it is, and we have to allow them to do so because then, as Regina would have said, they become people pleasers. They have, like, for me, severe social anxiety. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing and that they're going to get in trouble. To this day, I have to remind myself that when people don't like what I say or they don't agree with me or whatever, I have to remind myself. People laugh when I say this. I'm like, they can't beat me up. They can't beat me up. They can be mad, but they can't beat me up. So it's okay. But I wouldn't have to have that mantra playing in the back of my head had I been able to express the things that I would have been, feeling, experiencing when I was the age that my children are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, another recovering people pleaser here. Just so you know, we're not judging you, sis.
Yeah, yeah, we can own it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're owning our issues here on this platform because it's rough out here, isn't it?
Mhm.
Um, Today, just today, it's interesting that you would bring up. I think it was Regina who mentioned children who are never allowed to set boundaries turn into adults who don't know how to set boundaries and who feel bad where it comes to setting boundaries. Like they feel like they are violating somebody else if they don't allow somebody else to violate them, which is crazy. But that is literally what it is. You refuse to set a boundary, you are allowing others to violate you. And you feel badly if you try to set a boundary to prevent them from violating you, you know so crazy, but quite literally how many of us were raised. And today I came across a video on social media of a couple who were speaking about the early part of their relationship. They've been together for decades now, but they were speaking about when they first began dating and sharing about some of the experiences they had as a young couple. And the wife said something that really struck me. She said she did not start lying to her parents until she began dating her now husband, who she's now been married to for like 20 years. But when she started dating him and they first started like going on like weekend getaways together and stuff like that, she said it was at that ripe old age that she started lying to her parents. She said she was a child who never lied to her parents. She was always the good girl. And as an adult, she started lying to her parents. Can you imagine that? And so people were like, why, if you weren't lying when you were a child, why did you feel like you needed to lie as an adult? You're grown. She was like, listen, I did not know how to tell my mother I'm going away for the weekend with my partner. I didn't know how to say that to my mother because in my house, boundaries were not a thing. And so
Mhm.
I fully expected that my mother was going to carry on and act like it was the end of the world and just forget the fact that I was a full on adult,
Mhm.
right? And so, because of that, I felt safer to just lie. And I would tell her, I'm going to a conference for work or something. I would literally straight up lie. And then I would go away for the weekend with my partner. And she says she did that throughout their entire dating relationship until eventually they got married. And she said it was not until after they got married that she felt she felt safe enough to tell her mother where they were going or what they were doing. And she said she didn't understand then, but understands now that it was because she had never been taught boundaries.
Mhm.
She was accustomed to her
Conditions.
mother violating all of her boundaries. And so she did not know, even when she was grown, she was like, I don't know how, I don't know how to say this to my mom. I'm just going to lie. And
Mhm.
she lied her way through her entire dating life until she married the man eventually. And then all the lies came out. But,
Wow.
and it made me think of even myself. Because I literally started thinking back to my early adulthood. And I'm like, I could probably remember a couple of lies I told my own mom
Mhm.
because no boundaries. I didn't expect her to react well, even though I had the right to do what I was going to do or go
Yeah.
wherever I was going to go. I just, I felt safer to just lie, just lie. And I was like, this is terrible. But she learned that lesson and she is now able to raise her own children differently.
Mhm.
And that's the whole point of healing and growth, isn't it? It's so that you can change the next generation.
Yeah.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
trying to get away from that enmeshment.
Yes. The enmeshment trauma that so
Hmm.
many of us have normalized in Caribbean culture. Not just Caribbean culture, it happens in all cultures, but we're speaking about Caribbean culture because we're Caribbean people right here tonight. And it's so normalized. It's like a regular thing. This is just what we do. This is how we live. But it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy. It's toxicity parading itself as culture and tradition. And we need to stop it.
And that's a part of mental health that challenges everything.
Hmm.
It's us starting to have these conversations and say, yo, this is not healthy. We need to stop this. You need to stop acting like your child is entitled to you in every way, shape, or form because you birthed them. No, it doesn't work like that. If we're talking about traumas that we need to cut, I think the biggest one will be the biggest headed and everything falls under it. We were not really taught how to love ourselves. We were not really, it comes back to what you guys were saying. You're saying the child is rude because the child doesn't want to talk to you, or, oh, see such and such, just say hi, go to them. It was not really like pinned in us every day, every night. Yo, you matter, you are important, love yourselves. That was not, it was taught to us in different ways. It was maybe said to build your confidence here and there, but our parents did not intentionally make it their job to remind us, yo, I see you, you need to love yourself, and this is why you have to love yourself. It goes back to how we're taught as little girls how to take care of our bodies. We're even it you can see just as how men with, when it comes to sexuality, how we look at sexuality. I gotta touch on that part, but how we look at sexuality. So we were not really embedded with self-love as children as young as 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And that is one thing that we need to stop. We need to tell our children every day, let your child know you are special, you are amazing. Yes, it comes back to you. You can teach your child affirmations, definitely, but let them know that I love you. Let them know every day. Ring it in their ears every day. Even when you have to scold, even when you have to take with a laptop, even when you have to shut down Twitter and whatever else you have to shut down, you still remind them that, hey, I love you. And this is why I love you. And you find ways to boost their confidence, build their confidence. Let your girl child know that, hey, you are better than anything. Let your boy child know you matter. I see you. You are amazing. We have to build that. We have to break that generational traumatic experience and really look at how we are teaching our children to love themselves from inside with intention. That will
Yeah.
break a lot of curses that we're continuing for the future. It will break a lot.
Agreed.
Well,
Agreed.
MJ, I do have a flip side to that. So I've been teaching my son affirmations since he could talk, right? And so he knows his affirmations, but then he gets super defeated when it goes against the grain for him. So, for
Mhm.
example, if someone says to him, "Well, you're not everything. You're not a good person," or
Mhm.
um, "You're not handsome. You're not," whatever it is that I teach him, if it goes against that, he gets super defeated, right? So now I have to find a way to balance out. I can also say, well, everyone is not going to like you, or everyone is not,
Yes.
but it's okay because there's so many more people that loves you, right? So
Love you. Yes. Yes.
we have to look out for those types of things where, yes, you can tell your child or teach your child how to accept that they are great, right? And have that positive mindset and positive thinking, right? But then society influences them, and then society now comes in where, peer pressure and all these little influences say, well, whatever your mom was teaching you is not really correct. What are you talking about? So how do we balance that? That is a question that I have for the panelists tonight. How do we balance making sure that our children know how to accept that, hey, I am the best thing since sliced bread, I am great, but also there's others who are also the best thing since sliced bread. How do we balance society versus you as an individual empowering your child?
I feel like I want to throw this question at Chanel because the reason why I'm asking Chanel this question is because Chanel shared with us earlier what she has done to counteract people's negativity. She said that she tells herself, well, they can be mad, but they can't beat me up, right?
It can't beat me up. Like I mean, it comes off as very funny and lighthearted because everybody knows I love a good kiki. But at the same time, it reinforces that it's okay for people to have their opinions. I tell my kids that all the time, because I encourage them to set their boundaries. My 7-year-old does not like to be touched. Matter of fact, if she doesn't even like people to look at her, but it's like you can't tell people not to look at you, like their eyes, but So she doesn't like to be touched. She doesn't like people in her personal space. I'm like, that's okay, you know. But I do often remind them that people are not going to always like or appreciate you or anything like that. But at the same time, you can't let that bother you. And it's about leading by example as well. Because I mean, as somebody who is in the public, like who has received a whole lot of negative attention. They see how I manage that negative attention. It's always okay, cool, no problem. Most of it I don't even look at. Some of it that I do look at, I was like, oh, okay. And it's like it as the young people say, it be like that sometimes. Like that's just really how it is sometimes. And I heard my son say that the other day. I'm like, good. At least you're taking in some of what I'm telling you. That it will just be like that sometimes. So as much as we, give them these affirmations, tell them we love them, and all the time that they're great, we also have to remind them that not everybody's gonna think that, and that is perfectly okay because here what they can't beat you up.
Facts.
I
That's
feel
what I
like
mean. Like, I don't mean
sticks
physically
and
beat me up
stones.
all the time, but I mean mentally, whatever emotionally they can't. It doesn't really do anything to you. You should be able to distill what is constructive from what is destructive.
Yeah, that is good.
But
That is
teaching
good.
them, and that is really correct. Once you definitely plant that seed of that confidence and that self-love, they will more than likely, as you guys are saying, be able to counteract that. What I tell my children is what somebody really a push for you sometimes even had not to do with you. So if you see that person trying to gun for you or say things to you, like I can give you example. My daughter, as you all know, you've seen my beautiful 12-year-old. She is shapely. She is mature for her age. People see her dress and think she's a 16-year-old, but no. Hi, hello. She's 12. Just to put that out there. She's 12, okay? Okay. But when she was going to puberty in grade 6, a lot of the little girls didn't like that. And they were making fun of her for looking a bit more mature than them. She definitely shoot up. She had the tallest, she had everything else in the class. And they made it their duty to make her feel so insecure about that every day. And I found out, yo, that it broke me down. That it broke me down. And you know what I said to her? I said to her, baby girl, listen to me. I was your age. And I really, you that have a problem with no. And the fact that none of them probably hit puberty yet, so they're making fun of you to make you feel insecure. But baby girl, what you have, your ancestors bless you with. People ago, I said you to try to get what you have. So you don't make yourself feel small, but you understand that sometimes some people are going to deflect and project what they're feeling onto you so you can feel as low as them. So it's not your job, baby, to take it in. And I hear you, I see you, I'm sorry. Trust and believe me, nothing wrong with you. I will love you just the way you are. But how do I prepare her for people that just don't see her and just don't understand her? I build her self love up to a point that is able to cushion, and I'm here to cushion it. But I'm able to tell her, hey, and all the time, you're the problem. And no matter how people can talk, like how you guys say they can knock you, they can talk. But what you're able to do is see it for that sometimes, and a lot of times, 99% of the time, it had nothing to do with you. The
And
person is fighting there.
if I
Go
may,
ahead, go ahead.
I think our kids are being done a disservice because I remember being, I think it was from grade 3 and up. Every year, Mr. Terrific used to come to those schools, right? And to this day, I still repeat. I still know all those songs. I am a promise. I am someone special. I think I can. And those things take us so far into adulthood
Yes.
that I'm upset that there's not a program like that consistent program happening anymore. Because when I tell you that shaped my entire, you know, childhood and adolescence to this day. I mean, I know all the songs. My kids know all the songs. I've taught it to them. Um, my little shirt, the Break the Cycle shirt, gave up the ghost maybe only 2 years ago. Like I really had to get rid of it, but I've had it since then because it had that sentimental value. And we went through that program, and it is one of those things that encouraged me when I started doing the books and all of that stuff, because I know how that affected me as a child. I know how important it was to me to be told on almost a daily basis when you become there that you are someone special, you're one of a kind, you're a promise, you're a possibility. Gave us these affirmations that I remember when I was doing common entrance, had them written up there in front of the mirror in the morning when you go. And these were things that were done when you were what, 7, 8, 9, those kind of, and those are the
Mm,
times that you're absorbing a lot of these things, absorbing these positive things. Whereas now we're being exposed to every single thing, every single thing. So I think where the kids are being done a bit of a disservice by not having programs like that still happening in the school. I went to a private school as well. So it was across the board that we all had the same opportunity to be a part of something like that. So it's very important, like that positive self-talk and that reinforcement by not just parents but other trusted adults like the teachers, etc. I know teachers are fed up. I've seen some teachers like it's 8 o'clock in the morning and they're already mad. It's 8 in the morning. Who throw that all in your cornflakes? Hold on. Like it's 8 a.m. and I get it. But then we have to also provide resources for the persons who we want to have this sort of positive impact, because we can't expect persons to pour into children when they're not being poured into as well. Yeah. So all of that is so important in ensuring that kids receive the type of positivity and all of that stuff that they need right now.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I wanted to jump in and put my 2 cents on this question as well, regarding shielding your children from um, people who are going to give them negative feedback, make them feel badly about themselves, etc. Um, I think the one of the ways that you can really combat that in young children is by teaching them the importance of governing their own emotions and being accountable for their own emotions.
Mhm.
Because this then is a skill that they can transfer to other people, because they will understand that if I am responsible for governing my own emotions and being accountable for my own emotions, it means that the people around me are as well. It's not just applicable to me, it's applicable to them too. I am responsible for how I feel and how I show up in the world. I'm responsible for how I treat
yes.
people. I'm responsible
Yes.
for how I talk to people. I'm
Yes.
responsible for whether I'm making people feel good or feel bad. I am
Mm-hmm.
responsible for how kind or compassionate I am, Or alternatively, I am also responsible for how rude or disrespectful or mean or unkind I am to people. It's me. My behavior is my responsibility. It is not a reflection on other people, it's a reflection on me, and vice versa. So when I encounter people out in the world who are unkind, who are mean, who are aggressive, who are disrespectful, who are bullies, and etc., 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 it doesn't say anything about me. It says something about them.
Yes.
I need
Yes.
to teach my child to ask, not what's wrong with me, but what's wrong with what's wrong with her? Why is she acting like that? What something must be wrong with her. And a child, particularly a young child, I would say below the age of 5 or 6, might ask you what would cause people to behave that way. And in response to a question like that, I would say pain is what causes people to behave that way. When you see people being mean and unkind and rude and disrespectful and bullying others and treating other people bad, it's because something inside of them is hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
Something inside of them is hurting them. And that's what causes them to behave badly when they go out into the world.
Yes.
It's not about you, it's about them. And also, if you go out into the world and behave that way, it's because something inside you is hurting you. And I expect that if something inside you is hurting, that you will say something. Tell me, come and tell me. I feel bad. Why do you feel bad? Because X or Y. How can we fix it? You don't just carry your pain, walk around with it, go out into the world and treat people badly because it's a reflection on you. It makes you look like a bad human. And that's not how you want to show up. You understand? And so I feel like teaching children to hold themselves accountable for their own feelings, their emotions, and how they behave helps them to hold other people accountable too.
Yeah.
So they don't blame themselves when other people are showing up out here wild in the streets and think that it has
Validation.
something to do with them. Doesn't have
Yes.
anything to do with me. What inside of you is broken and painful that's causing you to act like this? This is what you have to teach these children, so that they are like they deal with people like this in the same way that you would deal with water off a duck's back. They're like, oh my poor thing, something inside her is hurting her, that's why she's being so disrespectful. I wonder what happened to her. This is what we got to teach these children. Otherwise, they're just going to walk around internalizing other people's baggage. And do you know how many adults never learned this skill and are still
Yeah.
doing it even in adulthood? Just
Yes.
taking on other people's baggage?
Yeah, just walking around seeking a bunch like a validation from everybody, not validating themselves. Not validating themselves. You're so right. We take it from childhood, we bring it, we just carry it up. Just walking around taking on everybody's baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's where I am with it. And I'm going to be honest, and since we're being honest about our own struggles, that sometimes that is a hard thing to do, even as an adult, to
Mm-hmm.
understand that when somebody is unkind to you, that it is not a reflection of who you are. It is a reflection of who they are. It's a reflection of what's going on with that person. Something inside that person is not okay. Something is broken and painful inside that person. And sometimes, even as an adult, we struggle to
Mm-hmm.
remind ourselves of this. Sometimes we don't remember until after we have already internalized what the person said and taken it upon ourselves and feel, oh, I'm so awful. I'm so this. And then maybe some hours later, after you finish crying and get upset, then you're like, wait a minute, hold on. That's not how I was supposed to handle that. you know? So so we're not suggesting that this is easy by any means. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what makes it easier when you're an adult to do this? when you've been practicing since you were a child.
Yeah.
That's what makes it easier. Because the more you practice, the better you become at it. Most of us are struggling right now to do this as adults because we were never taught this as children. We taught ourselves this in adulthood. So we haven't had a lot of practice. As a result, it's a challenge. But if you have a child who's been doing this since they're 4 or 5 years old, best believe that when they are 40 something, like myself, yeah, you just don't waste your breath, because I'm not about that life with you. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, okay, you got problems. I'll be over
Yes,
here.
I say that my word sounds like a you problem.
That sounds like a you
That
problem, not
sounds
a
like
me
a you
problem,
problem. Like,
right? I'll be over here. When you get it together, you just let me know, because whatever's happening to you has nothing to do with me. Okay, bye. You know, but that it takes some work. It takes
It
some
does.
work.
Does.
So, all right. Let's pivot this discussion. Let me read two comments on the comment section first, and then we're going to pivot. I want us to talk about some of the mental health disorders that are common in our children, and I want us, if we can, to focus on mental health disorders that are common within the population that is closest to us. So we are going to focus on what's prevalent in Antigua and Barbuda right now. I know there are lots of people listening to this podcast who are not in Antigua and Barbuda, but we're going to focus our discussion on Caribbean communities, because those are the communities that are closest to our hearts right now as Caribbean women, and Caribbean parents. And to be honest, if you are listening to this podcast, whether you're listening to us live right now or you're listening to this recording later on, please know that a lot of this is applicable to cultural communities outside of the Caribbean as well. Um, but for the purpose of this discussion, we're gonna talk about what we see happening in our cultural community, so that we can specifically address it. And we're doing this because we don't have all night long, and so we can't talk about every single community that exists. So we're going to start at home with our discussion. So I wanted us to touch on some of the mental disorders that are prevalent among the children that we see and interact with on a daily basis. Let me read two comments from Serene, and then we're going to go straight into that. So Serene says, planting the seed of self love is key to developing a child's healthy self esteem. By the way, in case there is anybody who does not know, Serene is a colleague of mine here in New York. She's also a psychotherapist, but she specializes in children and adolescents. I do not work with children and adolescents. I think everybody here already knows this, but I am just saying it. But this is Serene's area of specialization. Okay. So she goes on to say it's important that positive self talk comes from the school, media, music, and all areas where they function. So, to support a child's healthy self esteem. What are your thoughts on parents' self esteem or mental health impacting healthy parenting? Whew, whoosh. Serene hit us with a big question there, boy. What are your thoughts on parents' self esteem slash mental health impacting healthy parenting? Let's see if we can respond to this question, and then we're going to talk about mental disorders in children. So, this is a little segue before we go into what I said we were going to talk about next. Uh,
I'll
anybody
start.
want to take this? Okay, Monica.
I'll start with this question. I saw the question and I'm like, well, heck, let me just dive in on this one. Okay, so I believe that in order for you to raise, a healthy child, a child with good self esteem, you yourself need to have good self esteem. And if you don't, you have to fake it until you make it. Okay. Um, my thoughts are sometimes, I have mental health issues, right? And sometimes I find myself um, really can't cope. Like I just can't cope today. But I have a little one, and my little one is looking up to me to actually make his day start his day, to make his breakfast, to do the things that we have to do for that day. And sometimes I just cannot cope. But, but I need to get up. How is he going to eat if I don't move from this bed, especially as a single parent, right? And so what I find, right, that it does impact him, because then sometimes he's so over concerned about my well-being when I should be the one more concerned about his well-being, because he's only 5, right? He's only 5 years old, and he shouldn't have to to come to my bed and wake me up and say, "Mommy, are you okay? Is everything okay? Do you need anything?" At 5 years old. So it really does affect them emotionally, because well, at least for my child and from the experience that I have, my child is very emotional. He's very empathetic, and he wants everyone to be very nice. Are you okay? Okay, great. If you're not okay, okay, well, what happened to you? Why? And he's like that. And so I have to be mindful of of the things that I do really reflects on him, or how it's being perceived by him. And so what I try to do when I'm in that space, I have to push myself. He's the person who helps me push to get out of this rut that I'm maybe feeling that day. Or if you have help, you can always share with your partner that, hey, I'm just not, you know, feeling well, or I just can't make it. Can you help me? Can you tag team with me today? Here, it's your turn. Just take him away from this situation. So yes, he sees mommy in a not so okay situation. And what I like to do is I like to explain to him exactly how I feel, and what's the plans of me moving from that feeling into being a good feeling, right? So I can say to him, okay, well, maybe let's color together. I might feel a little better. And immediately his emotions, gets boosted, and say, okay, mom, when we finish eating, let's color, right? So these are some of the tips that I use personally, what I've noticed. But it definitely does affect your little one, if especially if your little one is very emotionally intelligent. And majority of the younger ones these days, they're coming out the womb emotionally intelligent, right? So I would say you have to learn how to be honest with that child, but also you teach the child how to get out of that situation, by maybe that child assisting you in getting out of that situation. That's my 2 cents.
It would
You
seem as if we
can't
have the
give
same
them.
son.
You can't give them something that you not have. You can't pour for an empty cup. If you don't have it, if you're not intentionally working on your self esteem and your confidence, you're not going to be able to show them, teach them. And it does impact how you parent. It really does. I allow my children to see me down and crying. Just the other day, I got really frustrated, and I'm sitting down in here on my bed, bawling my eyes out. My daughter's getting ready for school, and I'm just bawling because I've been holding it up for a while. But I sat here on my bed bawling, and you know what she did? She came into the bedroom and she hugged me. She didn't ask me anything. She just gave me a nice, good old hug, and made us cry a little bit more. And then she left to go to school. And because of that hug, I was able to know that she sees me as a person doing, trying, healing, fighting, screaming, and shouting. I push into myself and pour into my cup so I can teach them how to take care of themselves better mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every day better. They see me get up and go for a run. They see me process my emotions. I encourage the both of them, yo, journal, write. I don't have to read it. I build my own self esteem so that I'm able to teach them because it does impact. But as Monifa said, you have days you're not all hunky dory, and you have to find it somewhere. You know where you find it? In that reserve. You find it in that reserve. You tap into your own reserve and you pick yourself up and you say, you know what? As you say, sometimes you don't want to go work. Like Me no want go work. But then when the two termites and they start yam through my house, I'm like a tall man. I'm have to make sure I feed them. I can't starve them. You check. They never say come call me. You understand? But when the two termites and they're ready for yam, me have to put on for me big girl panties and tap into that reservoir and say, no, MG, suck it up. I will go work today. I can make some money because them two babies need food to eat and you need food to eat too. It's about building your own self-esteem, your own reserve, so you can be a healthy parent. But you're not going to be every day. And hey, that is okay. You are not a robot. You're a human being working on emotions and feelings, and it is okay for your children to see that. Let's step back, ladies. We spoke about things that we need to do away with trauma. Make I pick me and then see how you cry. Make them know, yo, this is my last $10 my have. Speak real to them. They're not stupid. We keep thinking, as Terrell said, they have feelings. They're human beings. They have yay. Them a pop out with emotional intelligence, as Monica said. They're not stupid. Stop treating children like if they are. You don't have to let them know the birds and the bees about life, but you do have to be realistic with them, especially if you are a single mother. Be realistic with them. If you have two parents in the household, be realistic with them. Let them know, let them see you. So that way, while you are tapping into your reserve, while you are working on yourself, they can see, I saw daddy when he was down, but daddy pull up himself. They can know that's their example. We talk about social media and the media. Oh, our children have too much this out in the media because our kids are not seeing us as examples. Think about it. Tap into your own reserve.
Yeah, for sure. I can recall when I was younger certain instances where, my mom would get like inordinately upset about something. And now as a parent, I realize she was probably extremely overstimulated. I get overstimulated, like I can't wear clothes with tags in them anymore. Because if I'm already having a bad day and then the tag in my clothes is touching my neck back, and then I walk and then the door handle grabs me by my shirt, it's over. I'm gonna start crying immediately. But then what it made me realize is that, at the time when I thought, why is she acting like that? What a problem? Why you always mad? And then I realized what it actually was. It assisted me in, healing from some of that childhood trauma that I would have endured, like understanding that it was not deliberate and that I was not the problem. And it helps me to deal with issues and situations with my kids even better. My 5 and 7 year old, they fight. Cause Pinky and the Brain, we call them Pinky and the Brain. They don't go anywhere without each other, but they absolutely terrorize themselves and everyone around them at all times. Right? So I have to ensure that I'm well rested, that I am well fed, that I, have kind of psyched myself up to say, okay, this is what we're doing today. And I have to plan. I can't do ad hoc. It has to be a planned situation. Okay, they're going to be here from this time to that time. At this time, we're going to be doing X, Y, Z, A, B, C. And as both Monica and MJ would have said, I would let them know, listen, today I'm tired. I have a headache. I'm not feeling 100%. Can you guys, watch something? Can you color this thing for me? Recently, it's been making origami thingies. I give them, okay, can you guys go and make whatever and bring it to me? Let's color it together. But you have to be present, and you have to, yes, you have to push sometimes, but you also have to communicate, because it lets them know that it's okay to not be okay sometimes as well. So they can tell, like, I'm not feeling 100%. My daughter would come and she'd come lay down on the bed. I say, what's
Yes.
up? I'm not 100 right now. I just want to lay down. She doesn't want to play anymore. She just wants to lie down. I ask her if she's tired. She feel overstimulated. She say, yeah, like she would say something like her skin hurts. I know what that means. I can't explain it to you guys. I cannot and will not elaborate. But we both know what it means. So she's able to just come and explain to me, listen, I'm not 100, because I've said to her, and all of them on multiple occasions. I'm not 100 right now. I feel really tired. Can you guys, give me 2 minutes. Let me just, decompress a little bit to the point where my eldest daughter has called me a zip file because I'm always decompressing. So give me a minute, let me decompress, and then we can start back what we were doing, or do something else. But it's important to be transparent and accountable when it comes to your mental health and pouring into your child's mental health.
Mm. This is so good. This is so good. Regina, did you want to say something on this too? I'm just soaking it in. This is too good.
Same, same. Um, I do agree even when I reflect back on my own life that sometimes even the decisions that parents make stem from the place in terms of where they're at mentally. If let's say a parent is really struggling with their self-esteem, they may even project that onto their child who may be exhibiting some form of confidence. And then that helps to determine, well, yes, the child can do X versus why they can't. And it's important for parents to reflect back on what is really driving the decisions that they're making. Is it their own insecurities that may be popping up that is running the show? Or is it really from a place of, what, I perhaps have some genuine concerns here? And, I really like the question because it had me thinking for a bit, and it really took me even back into my own childhood in terms of times when, I would have felt that I wanted to make particular decisions or I wanted to engage in certain activities, and I couldn't understand why there was a no, you know? When in fact, I'm now getting to understand that some of that may have just been low self esteem or even insecurity or just what was happening with my caregivers at that point where they were mentally that really directed how it is that they made certain decisions. So I think as parents, we really need to do pay attention to that. So thank you, Serene. Very thought provoking question, I must say.
Yes. I want to just add something, just one other thing to what you ladies have already said, because you've made some really good points here. The other thing I want to just add to that is that your parenting is also impacted by where you are in your life at the moment. Whatever stage of your life you are at is going to be reflected in your parenting, which is why you can have three children born to the same parents under the same roof who turn out completely different,
Mm-hmm.
because child number one and child number three were not raised by the same parents, even though you are the same human.
Yep.
The person you are when you have your first child at, say, age 22 is not
Talk
who you
through
are
it.
when you have your third child at, say, age 35, or your fourth child at age 40. It would be crazy to think that you are the same person at age 40 that you were when you were 22, which means that the child that you had when you were 22 is not getting the same parent that child number four, who you had at 40, is going to get. That's two different people completely. And as a result, no one should be shocked if child number one and child number four also turn out to be two different people, because you are not the same person. And it shows up in your parenting. You may not be aware of it. Sometimes it is subtle. It's happening, but you are completely unaware. But it's there. It's there. And as a result, you have several children in the same home who receive varying types of parenting from you, the same
I
person.
I can
And,
attest to that because I had my first child when I was 17, right?
uh-huh.
Like my eldest daughter, I had her when I was 17, and my son, I had him when I was 25, right? So those two people are two extremely different people. And something happened today, and my daughter said, "Boy, if I'm in me, you would have X, Y, and Z." And I said to her simply, "Oh God, Jack, give me a break. I had you when I was 17." And she was like, "Okay, that's fair." And I actually said to her, "Look, I had you when I was 17. I didn't know what I was doing. Give me a break." Like, and then she thought about it for a second, and she's like, "Actually, you know what? That's fair. Fair enough." And we had the conversation, that this exact conversation, that the person I was when I had you is different from the person I was when I had M, and was different than the person I was when I had my son. So y'all are receiving like three separate people. So very often she's like, but when we, because my stepson is also 13, so they grew up around the same time, they would look at each other and be like, "Boy, if I may, are we, then with an X, Y, and Z." And we had to tell him, "Oh God, Jack, give us a break." That was like what, 8 years ago. And then having explained that, they sort of understand, because what that creates is, well, that can create a level of what you call it, resentment, that I had to be the guinea pig, I had to go through all of this, and then now you come along and you're getting the best treatment. I'm the baby of my family on both sides, but both I'm the last child for both my mother and my father, and all of my older siblings have expressed some level of resentment, like, we had to be the guinea pig. We get the tambourine whip and the back slippers and all this something. And then you come along and
You come in the
it
time.
is a different thing. So I, being so aware of that, I often have to remind my daughter of that. Give me a little grace. That I'm trying to do better than what I did when I was 17, because I honestly didn't know what I was doing. So that is extremely true, and I've lived that as the baby of the family and as somebody who has two children who are very different in age.
Mhm. And Therese, parents oftentimes chalk it up to, oh, that last child came in when I was tired, which is why I interjected. That that is oftentimes what we hear locally. That they were already exhausted from Yes. the first set of children. That when the last one comes, it's just like, you know what, it is what it is. But it
We can't
looks
bother.
position that you both have shared, that in fact they're really at different places and stages in their own development and their own lives. Right. Yeah, yeah. Listen, ladies, let me just go ahead and let you know we're going to have to do a part two on this, right? You realize that, right? Because it is already, well, 7:26 for you, 6:26 for me. And we haven't really gotten to the meat of the discussion yet. This is still just the, what you call it, the first course of the meal, the hors
Mm,
d'oeuvres. So let me
Starting a
put you all on
stretch.
guard. I'm going to be in your phones, in your WhatsApp, to schedule the part two. Let me just let you know early, so that when you see me messaging, you don't go like, not Therese again in my phone. All right, just be ready for it. But let's talk about mental disorders that are prevalent with children. And you know which one I want to start with? I want to start with ADHD.
mm-hmm.
I'm starting with that one for a very specific reason, because there is a certain mother on this panel tonight with us who has had to interact with ADHD up close and personal. And I know that she has gotten her daughter's permission to speak on this tonight. We made sure to secure the child's permission. We are
Listen,
respecting boundaries here.
of
And
course
her
we are.
daughter has granted permission for us to discuss her experience with ADHD. Okay? And so that's why I want to start us off with that. That is not the only mental disorder that our children are dealing with, nor are we saying that it is more important than the others. We just want to start with that one because we have a lot of experience with that, specifically with a mother right here on the panel with us tonight. Okay. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to MJ so MJ can share a little bit of her experience, and then we're going to talk about how ADHD is showing up in our children, symptoms, signs, and most important, what are we doing about it? That's the important part. Okay, so MJ, would you be so kind as to share with us a little bit of what your experience has been dealing with ADHD?
Of course, of course. Okay, so let me balance myself and not get too emotional. Regina definitely knows of my story. She was the first person I reached out to years ago. So, my daughter's name is Demira Adams. She is my 12-year-old. What I say? The right side of my brain. She is creative. She is amazing. She is magical. She is the innocent part of what I would have loved to be at that age. She's everything that I am, and she's about to be even more. I'm in tune with her. Um, if I'm being fully transparent, I have to be transparent here. A lot of people may know my story. Therese does know me from childhood, but my story is a bit of a rough one here and there. I'm not gonna go too and lament too much on it. But my children were residing with my mother at one point in time of my life. I was a little bit of a rolling stone, and just like Chanel, I got pregnant with my son at 17. I was not equipped to be a mother at that age in any way, shape, or form. So I was figuring it out as I was going along, and I stood by the decision to let my children stay with my mom. One place that nobody bang them out, nobody mistreat them, and I'll figure shit out as I go, and that's what I did. However, I realized some stuff because I've always been a mindful person, even before I really dove into like therapy. I've always spoken. eh, the terminology is overthinker, but I think a lot. I am not owning that. I think a lot. So because of that, I was really in tune with certain things with her. Um, she started to walk at a bit of an older age. Okay, let me not put it that way because I do not believe you should put all children on some one development plan and stupidness. I remember taking Demira to the nurse for her checkup and they were telling me she's underweight. The child lang, where did the food go? If you understand what I'm trying to say, I know all Caribbean mothers understand what I'm trying to say. So I don't believe in measuring all children the same.
Mm-hmm.
However, Dama started to walk a bit like 7 months, 6 months to 7 months. She started to walk later. I realized also that she had a stutter. At first, I thought it was because her brother, being older than her, was always cutting across her, but I realized it was some of her confidence somewhat. I worked on that. I said to him, nah, let your sister speak. I worked on that, and she was able to overcome that. It was then some other personal problems, and then I realized that she went into kindergarten at Seaview Farm Primary, and she took to the two teachers. They had two teachers, a male and a female teacher, and they had the class lit up with colors and music everywhere. They made that class so interactive, and she came alive. She was talking now. She was spelling her name fully at that point. So I'm like, nah, they're onto something. She went into grade one, and things kind of went downhill from there. She was not as interactive with her schoolwork, but her grades were pretty good. They were good. I definitely know my child is intelligent. I realized that she wasn't grasping certain things when it came COVID, when we were on lockdown and we had to do homeschooling. I wasn't working at the point in time. So I made sure when we catch bus, go see the farm and sit down with she to help she with she schoolwork. Then I realized the Myra does not learn like the Ma. I am not in any way, shape, or form. I'm just explaining the story, but I'm not any way, shape, or form putting my children on the same wavelength. They're not upon the same wavelength. They're different and brilliant in their own ways. But I was kind of looking at certain things, just measuring. And what I had to measure was the ma, you know? I realized, no, she learns differently. The ma can read it and get it, but my, you gotta interact with her, you gotta make it, and she will guess it. I started to speak to the school, and then that's when I started to hear, oh, she sleeps in my class. Um, she's not very attentive. Um, and then I said to myself, no, something something's going on here. At that point, this was years ago. This was about 2020 because COVID. So it was about that time everybody was talking about mental health. So you saw a lot of the ADD, the ADHD stuff popping up. Mind you, I want to take accountability here and be transparent. Years before that, I suspected it. It was ADHD at first. The terminology was there, and I was like, some things were coming out, and I suspected it. Being the black mother that I am, I said to myself, nah, not for me. No, she all right. No, and all that, that serious. That's a white people southern. That's exactly what I said. I tried to convince myself that there was nothing going on and that it was okay, it was all in my head. And I never sought any help. It came up again, as I said. Other things came up that I would have shared with Regina and Therese, but that part I'm not going to share because it's still her personal business. But there were
Mhm.
other things that weren't adding up, and I put the dots together but didn't advocate for my child and speak up. Cut to 2020, I saw it again, the ADD. Everything is ADD, and I'm reading, and I'm looking, and I'm reading, and I'm researching. And I'm like, no, like the Myra is ticking off these things. Like, I started to look into it more. If I'm saying it correctly, ADHD is Therese, help me. The A stands for again.
Sorry,
Attention.
I just realized my microphone was muted. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
ADHD is attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder.
So let's say that again for everyone who's listening who may not be sure. It is, say it again.
Attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder.
Disorder.
ADHD.
So what happens? The child has a attention disorder. They're not able to sit still for too long. You are not able to grasp their attention with just any and anything. They do lose track of time, they lapse time, they forget things, and she had all that signs down pat. It definitely affected her in functioning in the classroom, and it made it very heavy, not only for us at home, me at home, but it made it heavy for the teachers, really heavy for the teachers. But what got me and made me feel so little was the fact that teachers were seeing this. They realized Damari was sleeping in their class, and most didn't say anything. Now, listen to me, teachers. I am not putting you in no weird space. Me not try cuss na you. I know you have a classroom of 20 something students. Ministry don't give you this plan. You have to follow it, or the students in your class. I am not blaming you in any way, shape, or form. But we need teachers to speak up. Speak up. ADHD is prevalent, more prevalent than you think. And because of me speaking up for Demira, I am now finding out teachers are saying to me, she's not the only one. But teachers are saying to me, and I can see and feel that they don't want to say nothing because they don't want parents to feel as if they're picking on their children, which I find to be ridiculous. But I can't blame teachers to a point. I started to speak about it when I reached, I started to do something more this time. When I realized how much it was affecting her, I realized she was sleeping in class. Nobody told me about it. I realized she was forgetting a lot, that it was really messing with her day, messing with her sleep. So I reached out to Regina. What I love and what I will always embrace, I have a voice. My throat chakra is not blocked. And because of sex and sexuality, and because of what I started, the conversation I started with, let's talk sex, I was able to meet persons like Regina and Fiona Charles, and I opened my mouth. I think I spoke to Fiona first because I was seeing Fiona as my therapist first, and Fiona um said, "You speak to somebody that you actually a friend, you network with someone who can actually help you more." And I reached out to Regina. I told Regina what I felt, what I saw, and she validated me and she told me, "Hey, first of all," and I love how all of y'all love to message me. Y'all therapists, when I message y'all make me feel so good, building back my confidence. Like, big up your chest, MJ, for advocating for your child. Big up yourself for the fact that you are paying attention to your child and you're reaching out for help. Big up yourself, MJ. You guys tell me that every time I message you. Regina validated me and said, "Okay, good. I am not alone. I am not crazy. Something is happening and my child needs help." I reached out to her. She gave me the information. At the time when she presented it to me, money was my biggest problem. I know
Mm-hmm.
you guys go to school for this. You got student loans to pay, and you're not always able to hand out your services for free. But I'm telling you, we need to continue these conversations. And I'm sorry that Miss Imhoff came off the call, but I know she's in the right places, and Monica is in the right places to let them know our children need help. Parents out here who cannot afford to take their children to therapy every day, we need help. We
Mm-hmm.
need to help the teachers to fight for these children. We need to equip our teachers to see these problems, not when they reach a fourth and fifth farm. But
Yep.
no, we
Yep.
need to understand that not all children learn the same. You cannot take out a sheet of paper to teach all sheep. You have some goat. I'm not calling all children animals, right? I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to say not all
Yep.
children learn the same, and we need to get out of that mind frame that what's going to go for one is going to go for two. No. If you cannot stop your class then to teach my child who has not been grasping it as fast as the other children, what is your purpose as a teacher? Honestly, if you're not able to handle it, then can't you tell the ministry, "Hey, I found a child in my class. I realize I'm reaching out to the parent. The parent is not studying me, but this child needs help. What can I do? Where can I go?" Teachers, please, may I beg are you? May I beg are you? Fight with are we? Please fight for our children. It is not easy, especially as I said. I realized it years ago and I put it off because I'm talking to myself with hate. No, that's white people southern. No, I can bang them out to she black people. Go to the southern day black people and have behavioral problems. No, it's not back in the day when we were feeding our children the same. Things happen, hormones, chemical imbalance happen. Things can happen to your children. And the more you play ignorant to it, is the more you're putting your child at a big disadvantage. What happened when I wasn't able to pay for Regina's help, I found ways on YouTube to see how I can help her. I started to encourage her to journal, to paint, to put out her feelings. I know she goes to bed at a certain time so she can wind down. I play meditative music. I encourage her to do yoga with me. I teach her how to meditate, to balance her emotions, balance her feelings. I pour into me so I can fill her cup and trust and believe in it easy. Look, I would not sign up for this in another lifetime. Me tell her straight up, me not talking or water for me mouth. This is the hardest shit I've ever done. Ever. And even more harder when you can't even get help. Sometimes I feel so helpless because every time I talk to somebody and tell them what's happening to her, and people don't understand. It's so hard. It gets so depressing. But I kept talking. I spoke to Fiona. Fiona started to see her how she could. I then spoke to Serene. I spoke to Therese. I got her help how I could. I then took her to her name is Miss Lewis, Leandra Lewis. She is a child psychologist. I got to her. I did the assessment. I paid for it. A 150. Tell her straight up a 150. If you see the signs that I'm talking about, you can go and get her service. It's 150. I don't spend 150 for all inclusive. Fact, put aside the 150 and go make sure you go and get the assessment. There's simple questions. Get the assessment. The psychologist will let you know what it is. And the Myra, I was told that the Myra has ADD because she's not hyper. She just has an attention issue. And without a doubt, you know how I counteracted that? I remind my child every day, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't lack nothing. You are wonderfully made. You are perfectly created. You just have some little things that just kind of, yeah, yeah, but I will deal with that. But nothing is wrong with you. So even parents, listen to me. Even when you do find out that your child has ADD or ADHD or even autism, and the spectrum is wide. So you're doing your child a disservice by acting like this is about you. This ain't about you. Go and get help. Advocate for your children. Open your mouth. You know, politicians, let them know what is happening because the teachers are overloaded and overworked. And parents, I get it. You know, no, you don't know. I get it. You don't know. And if you don't know, I can't expect you to do better. I get it. You know, no. You don't even know who to talk to first. That's why you're here. If you are a parent and you know of another parent that may have a child with ADHD or ADD or whatever the spectrum is, show them this live. Share this live, yeah. I'm very serious about if a nigga business I done, share it. Share this live. Let parents know that yes, your child may have a mental disorder, but your child lacks nothing. And the earlier you get help is the better for you and your child. Is the better for you and your child. I'll share you one little secret quickly, full transparency. The Myra only passed 2 subjects for the midterm. A lot of teachers are stating that she's sleeping in the class, and that just shook me. That it shook me, that it rattled me like no engine. Remember earlier, Monica said, "Oh, her son says, oh, he's stressed." I am one parent that believes and listens to children when they say they're stressed. Because we were stressed, but we couldn't vocalize it to our parents. She's now overwhelmed because it's her brain is now trying to process not 4 subjects anymore. It's now what, 15. So she's now overwhelmed by putting her focus. She now has to split her attention 15 different ways. Her brain is not even fully developed. Her body is doing what it's doing. And I believe chemical imbalance had a trigger to play in this. I believe that the trigger for her ADD would be that she went to puberty a bit early. So I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong. And the reason why I'm saying that, I spoke to Serene. I spoke to another therapist. I had an encounter with another therapist. I spoke to her. That's what she was saying to me. She believes the trigger is because she went to puberty a bit earlier than her other counterparts. So I try my very best to instill in her that she lacks nothing. We have to do that. We have to. I give her her voice. I let her decompress because I need to decompress. When I lock my door and I light up, I decompress it, and I teach her healthy ways to decompress too. I allow her to have her moments. I try my best not to overwhelm her. I encourage her to journal. I encourage her to write it down. What I'm now doing, I'm not forced, I'm pushed to the point that I now have to make sure she goes to therapy because she does not know how to balance 15 subjects, and neither do I. I'm balancing making sure she gets fed every day. I'm balancing making sure I get fed. I'm balancing my emotions and still healing my trauma. It's not that I'm saying I don't want to carry what she's going through, but I need to make sure I am healthy and I need to teach her healthy ways too so she can carry it too and know that she lacks nothing. I It's hard. It is hard. I got in contact with the counselor of her school. I want to say many thanks to Sir Novel Richards. They're working with me. I got in contact with the counselor, and she said to me that I just need to have the diagnosis printed out to have on her file, so that when she goes up, as classes go by, teachers would know. If she falls asleep in the class, they would know, hey, it's not that. She's not coming from a troubled home. It's the ADD. So here's what we're going to give her extra 15 minutes, because in her primary school, and this is not me bashing nobody, I am speaking my truth. If it makes you uncomfortable, that's a you problem. Okay? I know what I went through. In the other school, the teacher failed her when she slept in the class on a test. But the teacher is not calling me and telling me, yo, Miss Jardine, your daughter's falling asleep on my test. I'm saying to them, none of y'all are telling me what's happening, and they sum it down to, oh, I don't want nobody to say I'm picking on their child. That's what the parents y'all have to deal with. Teachers, I'm so sorry if that's the parents you have to deal with. I humbly apologize, but I am one parent that wants to know. Call my phone. That child is my responsibility. You call my phone. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock a morning. Call phone. Let me know what's happening with my child. And I hope, and I really hope, that we really take the time to advocate for our children, parents. As I said, you can get the assessment done, you can get help. I am seeing about getting free help, because I cannot really afford to take her to the therapist every time. Everything will go up in the country. So, as Therese said, how can we move forward in making sure that parents, when they do advocate, we can provide services? It's not just alone looking on the government, but conversations like this, parents, join them. I'm not sure if workshops can be held. You never know. Therese doesn't live here in Antigua, but we queens here in Antigua can create something and make something happen. Even if it's 6 hours sitting and I'm building a chat, let's do something and advocate for our children so we can get the people higher to know mental health is a serious problem. And it's not that sometimes we don't want to, it's sometimes we can't afford it. We really can't. I really cannot. And take on from me that I live every day in this country till I can go to the supermarket, till I bills to pay. Sometimes mental health so far from me to go to the therapist. You know what I do? I run, I write, I journal, I hike, I put it out, I cry. But sometimes I do want to talk to a professional for the money in a day. So please, whoever is listening to this, if you are a therapist here and you want to give back, maybe you have, of parents that are struggling with ADD, and you can give, a couple hours of the day, a couple times in the month where you give your free help to a mother that really needs it. Because one thing for you to identify the problem, but how do you get help in this country? And it's so hard, and some I love shoo 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 things. Some of the time I open their mouths. You have the information, open your mouth. Things shouldn't be shoo shoo in this country and allow you suffer. Open their mouths. I mean, who for dumb have to go knock pan. I will advocate for my children no matter what. And parents, you should do that. Whoever do you have to go knock on, whoever favor you have to beg. Take your child's mental health serious. Because when it comes sexy time, I'm ready to post up. But you have no idea that the teacher is struggling with your child who probably has ADD, ADHD, who's probably maybe a slow reader that could have gotten a reader in the exam to help them. You know what I tell my children? Closed mouths don't get fed. So I teach them to vocalize and use this throat chakra of theirs. And it's not what you say. I've been telling the mother that from since he was a child. It's not what you say. It's how it's being said. I am Marcella Jardine, mental health advocate, mother of two. I have a daughter who has ADD, who is creative beyond measures and magical in her own way. And I am standing up for my child to let you know. Open your mouth and get help. please. Because sometimes it's just that part of the spectrum and it could be wider. And if you had just opened your mouth, your child would be better off. This ain't about you parents and your egos. And
Okay.
that's my story.
Thank you, MJ. Thank you. All right.
Therese, before we go on, I'm going to say this. Regina, please don't kill me for this, but on behalf of Mental Health Talk Antigua, we are willing to at least donate some funds towards you and your daughter. Regina, don't kill me. I know we here
I'm trying to kill you. Look, let me tell you, right?
pockets.
As I was listening to MJ, I was trying so hard because I hope nobody thinks that I am making light of MJ's situation. I was being with pride because I feel so proud of you with what you've shared. Even through the difficulties, because I imagine on a day-to-day basis it is challenging,
Oh
and you
God. If I
persevered.
can't talk about that, we're not coming off. But go ahead, Mama. Sorry.
You have utilized all of the resources and you continue to push forward. And we are going to do something wonderful. We just have to figure
Yeah,
out what that will be,
what
right?
we're gonna do. Mhm.
Yeah, because of course mental health is still not being adequately prioritized on a whole in our country. I mean, I talk to colleagues elsewhere and you hear the same sentiments being echoed. Um, Yet, they still have more than we do in our backyard. And it is a challenge. It is on various levels. I know that you've tried really hard, MJ, not to, put it all on teachers. I've had interactions with some in the past who really don't even know what to do when children present with some of these signs and symptoms because sometimes they don't even know what they're indicative of, right? Culturally, we tend to view children with ADHD as hardened, disgusting, um, absent-minded.
Lazy.
So it's
Lazy.
lazy, and so there are
And
all these
very, yeah.
negative connotations that are attached to them. And I believe that adds to the denial that a lot of parents experience. And I really like the fact that you've put it on parents in terms of responsibility for what we all choose to invest in. Right? You rightfully said that I like how you compared the way that sometimes we frolic, like we go to events and so forth, and we easily dish out the $200, the $300 forfeits. Yet still, there is the moan and groaning that happens when it comes to healthcare on a whole. And this is not just mental health. I've seen it show up even when children have physical health issues, and it's important that diagnosis serves a purpose and it is not just with the intention of labeling, because even when we work from a therapeutic standpoint, um, for me personally, I don't focus on the label, and I'm sure I could speak for Therese as well and many other clinicians who are very passionate with the work that we do. The label's purpose is intended to help the individual get access to services. It is not intended to identify them as an individual. That is not how we view them in the therapeutic space. When it comes to services, particularly in academia or in the school setting, it's important that that child has something documented that is justifying any sort of accommodations that are being made. And when I say accommodations, what I mean is resources that allow them to thrive, because they can do the work, but the way in which their brain operates differently to others, it
Yes.
too. So,
Talking to us.
so they are already being set up when it is that the accommodations and the resources are not being put in place. And I mean, I could think of a number of well educated, successful people who have diagnosis with ADHD. Some of the most successful people right now in this world, because ADHD individuals tend to think outside of the box and they get very bored easily. Right, and that boredom then causes the person to feel, let me just go to sleep because my brain doesn't feel really excited right now. What is being presented to me just feels so limiting, and so I'm going to just get some rest until I get some inspiration. And so it's important for us to ensure that accommodations are made, that we do put forward to the policymakers that children with these conditions, and even without, because as you speak about your daughter, MJ, my mind even goes to children who may not have ADHD but do have similar symptoms. That is, children exposed to trauma, right? And it's important for educators to know what it looks like. It's important for the classrooms to be accommodating, for the resources to be available, for them to be able to get extra time to get tasks done because their brain takes a longer route to get there, but it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that they can't. So
It even
I am
it's
very
even
proud of you.
simple as well, Regina, as you even touching on that, what you just said. Bullied children that are bullying are sometimes being bullied at home. When I
Mhm.
come hyper trouble everybody, something happening at home. And that is also something you're so right. It doesn't have to be ADHD,
No.
ADHD. It could just be some trauma. This child is being bullied at home. So I'm gonna come to school and try to bully everybody.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Terrell,
Gratitude.
two, part two,
Folks,
and through maybe
folks,
three.
folks. Listen. We're at the 2 hour mark, and you know that
Yeah.
I don't like to go past 2 hours. Um,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because gotta respect people's time. Boundaries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit to doing a part two
Mhm.
in which we will pick up right where we are leaving off today. And we
Yes.
will we will begin part two by going straight into a discussion on these mental disorders that are prevalent and common in our children. And we will do a deeper dive and talk about
Yeah.
exactly what to look for. What should you, as a parent or a teacher, look for? What are the signs when you see a child doing X, Y, Z?
Mhm.
Check, and because something is
It's
amiss,
not right.
Yes.
something's going
Yes.
on,
Yes.
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And we do a deeper dive, and we will touch not just on ADHD and ADD. We will touch on PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder, because Regina just touched on that. Sometimes it's
Yes.
trauma. Sometimes these children have PTSD because they have been exposed to some type of trauma and have not gotten past it. And it's
Yes.
showing up as
Yes.
PTSD when they go to school. Sometimes it's conduct disorders as well.
Mhm.
And everybody just think the child is rude. So we're going to do a deeper dive in part two, and we're going to talk specifically about what are the signs, how do these disorders show up in real life on a day-to-day basis in your house or in your classroom, so that you can say, hey, I have a child who does that. Could it be? And then we want to talk about where you take the child. I'm going to
Yeah.
get Leandra on here for part two.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Leandra Lewis. That's
Yes.
the child
Child
psychologist
psychologist.
who
Mhm.
diagnosed MJ's daughter. I'm going to get her on here for part two of the discussion so that she can talk a little bit about the assessments that can
Mhm.
be done to officially diagnose these children so that there can be something in black and white.
Yeah.
on
Yes.
their charts at school, so that teachers are clear as to what's happening and they work with the child accordingly. So this, I'm already outlining what part two is going to be, so you can expect it. Look out for the advertisement for the date. It's coming probably early December, and maybe that might be the last show for the year.
No
Because
problem.
we're going to wrap up soon because the year is coming to a close, people.
All right.
Okay, so very quickly, I want everybody to give a parting shot, and I'm going to start with Chanel because Chanel is moving heaven and earth to be here tonight because they took her power. Remember that the powers took her power. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't want to kill Chanel's data. So, Chanel, can you give us a quick parting shot, and then if you need to, oh, we lost her. There, she's gone. All right. Hopefully next time we will not have any electricity issues. Okay, let me let Monifa give her parting shot. And then we will go Regina and then MJ, and then I will wrap us up.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being part of this discussion. This is something that just isn't because I'm an advocate that is dear to my heart. It's because, like MJ, I am living with a child who has a disorder. So, MJ, girl, everything that you're saying and the advocate, all the things that you have done, reaching out to Regina, thinking that you're going crazy and you're really not, and all of
Yes.
the feels that you feel as a mother, I empathize with you. I felt that, and it's important to advocate for your child. I've had 3 schools that my child has been to, and he's at home right now with the school that is best suitable for him. So I do understand, and I want to give thanks to you for bringing up this topic and pushing us to be as candid as possible. Thank you to Rez for this space and always inviting us and being a very good host for us as mental health talk in Tiga, and as advocates. We are the voice for the voiceless, and thank you so much for always including advocates. Not just clinicians but advocates. So thank you so much, and please tune in to the next episode of this. This is an important topic that you, Antigua and Barbuda, need to be a part of.
Okay. Regina, when you give your parting shot, could you answer this question, please? This question that's on the
So
screen right now. Could you answer it when you give your
sure, sure, sure. So I really want to thank Therese for having me on. I know I get really passionate about these discussions, and sometimes 2 hours never feels like it's even enough because there is so much
Mhm.
to say. And I'm not going to open up the door anymore because of course it can extend the discussion. And so I really look forward to part two. In terms of psychological assessments, it is a thing. The challenge though is that it is not an area that many clinicians invest in or offer. The reason being is because the tests themselves are very costly. So that is a barrier for the clinician and by extension the parent. It's a bit different to therapy where once you're taught a modality then you can deliver upon it, but with an assessment there are actual tests and screening tools that are specific to certain conditions that would need to be acquired, that of course can be cost prohibitive in Antigua. So I know that there, for instance, is assessment available for children with dyslexia in particular. And, MJ would have made reference to Leandra Lewis being able to offer assessments at what I would say is a significantly reduced cost than what we would typically see in our profession. And, kudos to Miss Lewis for being able to do that for parents, and so it's really a newer way of looking at service delivery that persons are getting themselves familiar with. People tend to be more aware of, let's say, therapy because that is more promoted from a mental health standpoint, but assessments also play a significant role because of the benefit that it aligns an individual with much needed services and resources in order to help them to thrive. And it's helpful in conjunction with therapy.
Yeah.
So, Monica, your parting
Mm-hmm.
words, I see, or MJ, I see that Therese internet has done a number. We don't
MJ,
know
It's like
who to find out.
it's like
MJ,
Well,
yes.
powers that
listen,
I
it's
be.
not
know
my
the
internet. I
Clearly don't
accidentally,
like
I
them.
accidentally took myself out of the room just now. Listen, my fingers are doing the most. But let MJ go ahead and give her parting shot.
Yo, I've said a mouthful and then some, and I can talk about this because there are other parts of it that I would touch on. But I want to just say quickly, parents, hold yourself accountable. I know it's hard. You're gonna have to do the nitty gritty. You're gonna have to do the dirty work and face yourself in the mirror. Take accountability where you need be and show yourself grace. At 17, I wasn't sure what I was doing. I had my daughter a year after. I still wasn't sure what I was doing. So there was a lot that I wasn't equipped with then. But here we are. I show gratitude. I'm gonna tell you why I show gratitude because years ago when I first saw the signs, I would not be able to advocate for my daughter like how I am now. And
Mhm.
you guys are right. You guys are correct. You're not the same parent with the first child. But for people that only had two, like myself, I am not the same parent that I am now. The parent that I am now, the more lighter parent, the more healthier parent, body, mind, and soul. I was not when I was 17. I would not be able to speak up and do more for Demira and my son when it comes because I had no meat fighting for me, boy, child. I had no that. So I would not be able to do what I do and get things done when I was that age because I wasn't plugged in and tapped into my self love and my self esteem. I wasn't able to give them something that I didn't have. So I show gratitude that even though, yo, I should have picked up on this long time ago, even though I balance and battle with beating up myself, I take my time to show myself grace. I shout out to my tribe who always showing me grace, who always reminding me, yo, MJ, you'll do the thing while you beat up yourself so far. So, parents, I am not here to fight with you. I am here to tell you stop making excuses and advocate for your babies. If you really care about their mental health and if you care about all of our futures, do the right thing and speak up and fight for them. I'm not trying to ride your back. I'm figuring it out as I go too and get one manual to do this thing. But please pour into yourself and love yourself so you can give your children a lot more than they deserve. Gratitude. I can't wait for part two. I can't wait for part two. Gratitude in all ways, Therese. So much gratitude.
Give thanks. All right. And this, my dear friends, brings us to the end of this very important conversation. As I already said, I am making the commitment now to do a part two. So, whatever I had planned for the next podcast is going to get moved, and we are going to replace it with a part two to this discussion. So, I will reach out to you to organize and finalize that. And I am letting our listeners and our followers know that the part two is coming. So you can tune in for that and look out for the date and the time for that. But in the meantime, and in between time, we are going to leave you guys for now. And of course, you know what I like to say. I'm leaving you with love and light. And remember to be a beautiful week. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.